There are some brutal moments when cocky rats get absolutely destroyed by the 5x strongest man, Mariusz Pudzianowski, a name that makes gym rats, MMA hopefuls, and even seasoned fighters pause, because this 5-time world's strongest man doesn't just lift, he destroys.
Zdeterminowany Mariusz Pudzianowski. Ale mocny low kick w jego wykonaniu. Kłopoty Najmana.
A w tej chwili próbuje chwycić Najmana. Low kicki to wymyślił Mirek.
But lifting Atlas stones and flipping trucks weren't enough for the Polish titan. Oh no. He decided to venture into the world of MMA, a realm where technique and strategy reign supreme. Or at least that's what his opponents thought. Randall J. Strossen published an article claiming that the 5-time world's strongest man, Mariusz Pudzianowski, weighs 130 kilos but fights at 125 kilos.
Mariusz Pudzianowski okłada Najmana. Amerykańscy spadają na głowę Najmana. Koniec walki. Mariusz Pudzianowski.
What followed were beatdowns so ferocious, even the referees had to wonder if they signed up for referee work or crisis management. This is the story of how cocky fighters learned the hard way that no amount of trash talk can save you from the wrecking ball named Mariusz.
Trafił Mariusz Pudzianowski! Co się dzieje? Jeśli narożnik Michała chce wymieniać ciosy z Pudzianem, kają się w głowę, pewnie gdzieś w tej grupie też byliśmy my, Mariusz Pudzianowski.
Mariusz Pudzianowski's MMA debut wasn't just another fight. It was a spectacle of raw power. His first victim, Michał Martela, walked into the cage radiating overconfidence. With his tattoo-covered chest and Pitbull written on his shorts, Martela probably thought he was the alpha dog. Spoiler, he wasn't. From the opening bell, it was clear this wasn't going to end well for him. Martela started cautiously, maintaining distance, perhaps hoping to outlast Pudzianowski's brute strength. But Pudzian wasn't interested in playing cat and mouse. With a single low kick, he sent Martela sprawling like a bowling pin. The tattooed warrior scrambled to his feet, only to meet a right hook that made sure he stayed down. Medics rushed to his side, while Pudzianowski stood there looking like he was ready for round 2. If Martela was a warm-up, the African giant was the main course. At 350 pounds, this behemoth looked like he could wrestle lions. Surely he'd pose a challenge, right? Wrong. The fight began, and the giant charged forward, hoping to use his massive size to overwhelm Pudzianowski. Bad move. Mariusz sidestepped the attack effortlessly and delivered a punch so devastating it might as well have been a wrecking ball. The giant hit the canvas with the grace of a falling tree. The match was over in less time than it takes to microwave popcorn. Cocky fighters who assumed his strongman legacy wouldn't translate to MMA quickly learned otherwise. The fact that Pudzianowski balanced weight management and sheer dominance underscores why so many opponents regretted stepping into the ring with him.
No to siadamy wygodnie, odpalamy, miejmy nadzieję za chwilkę prawdziwe.
But it wasn't just muscle-bound giants lining up to face Pudzianowski. Rolls Gracie, a member of the legendary Gracie family, decided to test his luck against the Polish powerhouse. Gracie walked into the cage carrying the weight of his family's legacy, thinking his superior technique would give him the upper hand. Admirable, but ultimately pointless. Rolls attempted to chip away at Pudzianowski with low kicks, but those kicks had about as much impact as paper planes against a steel fortress. Mariusz responded with a monstrous hook that sent Gracie crashing to the mat. Legacy? What legacy? Pudzianowski's fists didn't care about history, they cared about results. By now, the MMA world was taking notice of Pudzianowski. Fighters either entered the cage bracing for defeat or deluding themselves into thinking they could win. Marcin Neon fell into the latter category. A bald compatriot, Neon believed his experience and strategy would help him survive against the Polish juggernaut. Spoiler, they didn't. Before the fight even started, Pudzianowski ripped his shirt off, a not-so-subtle hint at the destruction that was about to unfold. From the moment the bell rang, Neon was on the defensive. Mariusz charged forward like a freight train, landing punches with the precision of a demolition crew.
He's thinking about taking an arm.
For a second, Pudzian was holding on to the arm, but I think
Neon lasted less than a minute before collapsing under the onslaught. The referee had to physically intervene to stop Pudzianowski, who looked more annoyed than tired. By 2020, Pudzianowski's reputation was well established, but that didn't stop Lukasz Jurkowski from stepping into the cage. A flamboyant showman with a knack for high kicks, Jurkowski entered the fight brimming with arrogance. His plan? Dance around Pudzianowski, land a few flashy kicks, and walk away with an easy victory. Reality check. Pudzianowski doesn't dance.
Jeżeli znów
Jest programu, choć nie jest tych programów dużo.
Jurkowski landed a couple of kicks, but Mariusz barely flinched. Then came the mistake, a third kick, which Pudzianowski caught mid-air. In one fluid motion, he slammed Jurkowski to the ground and proceeded to introduce him to the business end of his fists. By the third round, Jurkowski's showmanship had earned him a trip to the crucifix position, a vulnerable state where Pudzianowski unleashed a barrage of punches that could have knocked the smugness out of a brick wall. When the fight ended, Jurkowski looked less like a fighter and more like a public service announcement for humility. Next up was Erko Yun, a Bosnian knockout artist riding high on a 3-fight KO streak. Yun believed his striking prowess could bring down the Polish titan. Spoiler, it couldn't. The fight began with Yun landing a few solid punches, but Pudzianowski quickly closed the distance. Dragging Yun to the ground, he unleashed hammer fists with the enthusiasm of someone trying to tenderize steak. Yun managed a brief offense in the second round, but it wasn't enough. By the end, his face resembled a Picasso painting, and Pudzianowski walked away with yet another victory. And then there was Butterbean, a heavyweight boxing legend known for his devastating punches. Butterbean thought his experience in the ring would give him the edge. Cute, but delusional. Instead of trading blows, Pudzianowski dragged Butterbean to the mat and turned him into a punching bag. The match ended with Butterbean sprawled out on the floor, his confidence shattered, and his legacy tarnished. The grand finale, however, was Bob Sapp, a mountain of muscle who looked like he might finally pose a challenge to Pudzianowski's dominance. Spoiler, he didn't. From the opening bell, Mariusz came out swinging like a man possessed. Sapp, despite his size and strength, couldn't handle the relentless onslaught. As the legend of Mariusz Pudzianowski grew, so did the lineup of opponents who believed they could tame the beast. What they didn't realize, until it was too late, was that Mariusz didn't fight to win on points or impress judges. He fought to end matches and careers in the most devastating fashion possible. His strategy wasn't complicated. Close the distance, throw bombs, and send his opponents home, wondering why they ever stepped into the cage in the first place. Pudzianowski took him to the ground and finished the fight with a series of bone-crushing punches that left the referee no choice but to intervene. Sapp left the cage looking less like a fighter and more like a cautionary tale. What makes Pudzianowski's journey so satisfying isn't just the wins. It's the sheer humiliation he dishes out to his opponents. They enter the cage with puffed-up chests, rehearsed trash talk, and dreams of victory. They leave on stretchers, their bravado obliterated, and their careers in ruins. Mariusz didn't just defeat fighters, he exposed them. Each opponent became part of a highlight reel, showcasing not just his victories, but the sheer humiliation he brought to the ring. To fight Pudzianowski wasn't just to lose. It was to be remembered as another victim of the strongest man alive. Pudzianowski doesn't just defeat fighters, he destroys their spirits, proving once and for all that brute strength is a language everyone understands. As for Pudzianowski's legacy, he may not have joined the UFC, but he doesn't need to. His highlight reel of destruction speaks for itself. To this day, fighters and fans alike remember one universal truth. If you ever find yourself in the ring with Mariusz Pudzianowski, don't bother fighting, just run. One of the most overlooked aspects of Pudzianowski's dominance was his adaptability. While critics often labeled him as a brute relying solely on strength, his fights told a different story. Against skilled strikers, he dragged them into deep waters on the ground. Against grapplers, he used his raw power to negate their holds. His ability to turn an opponent's strengths into weaknesses was the key to his unrelenting success.